Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of our F1 Manager 22 career mode with Audi. If you guys did miss the kind of reboot almost of this series last time out, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, because of course we had a large break from this series, but we're back to see out the remainder of this season 2 and locked into this battle with Ferrari for second place in the Constructors' Championship. We had a bit of an up and down episode return. We had a beautiful race at the Hungarian Grand Prix where Pierre Gasly dominated things, and at Spa, well, unfortunately, because of Alonso's old team taking him out, Alpine decided just to absolutely deck him into the wall. Alonso DNF there, and then unfortunately a late safety car produced a rather infuriating mistake with Gasly right at the end, and we lost out on a race win and ended up down the positions. We're still ahead of Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship, but now we've got to take some new components and probably some more engine penalties on the way at some difficult races. Zandvoort coming up, then the Italian GP, and in this episode we're actually doing 3 races in one, because we'll also bring you the Singapore Grand Prix. We're going to have to take some penalties around Zandvoort and Monza, also because it ends up being, some of the other AI, our rivals, at Ferrari and also Red Bull, I think, are taking some penalties themselves, so it just made more sense to take them at these 2 races, but definitely stick around for the Singapore GP at the last third of this video, because that ends up being a fantastic race and quite an exciting one also, with a few safety cars and last minute kind of bits of drama. But we go to Zandvoort first of all, in the first of the 3 races we're doing this episode, and Gasly was very promising in a large part of the Saturday. I think there was rain on quali, and he was first in Q1 and Q2. I was hoping he could carry that over into the last top 10 shootout. Alas, not meant to be. He just couldn't produce that same lap time he did in Q2 to go fastest of all, and it's Leclerc on pole position, but you can see him along with Verstappen are taking penalties. We've got Alonso on a penalty as well for some components we have to take, so Gasly will benefit from that and get towards the sharp end. So it'll be Perez on pole, Sainz alongside him on the front row, and Gasly right behind, so maybe opportunity to try and jump those 2 early on at the start of the race. Zandvoort, kind of just like Monza in terms of strategy, is just going to be a straight up one stop, apparently, allegedly, so we're going to have to see what we can do in the middle of this one. But we go to 5 red lights for the first race of the episode at the Dutch GP. Perez off pole position, gifted to him by a couple of penalties. We have a little bit of work to do because Leclerc actually puts up a really good fight into turn 1 in the first sector, but we do remain in 3rd place with Pierre Gasly. Alonso with his penalty down in, well, around 10th to 9th place. He's having a battle right now with Kevin Magnussen, and Verstappen, despite his penalty, and Leclerc as well, they're still P4 and 5, so probably only just like a gearbox penalty, I would say, for those 2 guys. But Gasly doing well to get ahead of Sainz as we just end lap 1 in 2nd place, and now has an open free chance to maybe have a go at Sergio Perez. So pushing to the max with Gasly right now on the medium compound tire. You'll see Alonso, we went for the kind of alternative strategy for starting on hards and then going to mediums at the end of the race, hoping to try and maybe get some places at the end of this. It's always tricky when you're in the pack in traffic, because you're not going to get a lot of overtakes done in the first part of the race. So I thought may as well stick them on the hards and try and have a little bit of pain at the start for more gains at the end of the Grand Prix. But you'll see, as I've been talking about that, Gasly flies through and gets up into P1. So showing, when we can push the car, this car is just as quick as the Red Bulls and Ferraris. It's really just the fact that the AI are so good at keeping pace up even when they're not wearing out their tyres. Whereas as soon as we get down to, medium, middle of the road on the tyre pushing, the pace just drops out of nowhere, and the AI just overpower us in that kind of perspective. So as we've gone through this stint, because I knew, the one stop's probably the way to go, I was trying to be quite cautious with Gasly's tyre wear, and so with that we moved back down to P2. You can see on the bottom right, we're kind of middle way on neutral for both drivers here, just trying to stretch this stint. But that means immediately, Perez got us and the Ferraris are right on the back of us, and it's kind of a case of sooner rather than later they're going to both overtake us. So now effectively we're 4th place because Perez has pit, Verstappen is pit, so we're in 3rd place at the moment behind both Ferraris. But Perez was ahead of us, so we were down to P4. So frustrating to have that pace initially, but by lap 28, we're looking at P4 right now with Gasly. Alonso does stay around P8 to 9, so he did quite well on his hard tyres, to be fair to him, to stay with the cars around him, despite being on the hardest compound available. Gasly comes in then eventually, and we're down to P6, so we've come out behind Verstappen now. Such was the lack of pace for the rest of that medium tyre stint. And you'll notice I've actually gone to medium tyres because I just thought I'm not sitting back and just letting him go on hard and not have any pace here. So I'm going to go for a 2-stop with Gasly, just to try and see, you know, if there's a last-minute safety car, if there's anything maybe to help us out maybe on the 2-stop, we're going to try something, because I just didn't want to sit back and let him just accept P4 or 5 behind both Red Bulls and Ferraris, basically. A little thorn in that plan, though, was Verstappen's AI, because even on hard tyres, he's able to re-overtake us, despite us being on medium tyres, so stuck a little bit behind him. Later on, though, eventually, we do get given a bit of a gift from the F1 gods. There is a crash out there, and that is going to bring out a full course safety car, so that means we can bring Gasly in for that second pit stop onto soft tyres with a free pit stop here because of this incident. I think this is the Williams car locking up into turn 1, going straight on and having a pretty dramatic crash, actually, to say he just locked up and went straight on. So now we're still P5, but now we're on the soft compound versus everyone else on hards. Fresher soft tyres, of course, 85% compared to about 70% for everyone else's hards. With Alonso, we stayed out, though, on the same medium, so we've jumped up now. We're actually having a go to overtake George Russell to try and get him up into P7, so pretty good recovery from Alonso, saying he started on the hard compound tyre, so I think he can go on to have a solid race. But now we're having a good go at everyone on the soft compound tyre until disaster strikes. On fresh soft tyres, Gasly locks up in the same way that Williams locked up into turn 1, and he is met with the same fate as the Williams of Mick Schumacher. Literally a carbon copy, lock up at turn 1. I wasn't even near, we weren't even near any cars, so he wasn't even really like pushing too much to, you know, make an overtake, and he has a very over-dramatic incident into turn 1. So he's out. He's out the Grand Prix. Safety car's out now for the second time, and that is going to bring Alonso into frame because both Red Bulls pit under that safety car. We're on the same set of mediums Alonso was on that 1-stop, and so that brings him up into second place eventually because we do overtake Carlos Sainz, and that means now we have a chance to have a go at Leclerc. So, you know, kind of almost like Spa in a way, you know, one driver's misfortune is the other driver's fortune, because Alonso through that safety car and the Red Bulls pitting kind of unnecessarily a little bit under that second safety car. It now means we're right here now on the last lap trying to have a go at getting a race win, stealing it away from Leclerc. At this stage, I know that we're not going to outscore Ferrari, but can we get a win? Possibly. Alonso goes for it into the last sector. He's actually up into P1 at this stage. They're side by side, neck and neck, Leclerc versus Alonso, and just through the last banking, Leclerc just has a bit too much tyre on that hard compound. You'll see Alonso into the, you know, the lower than 30%, so ultimately Alonso can't get the win, but he gave it a good go, and you can't ask for much more, to be fair. So yeah, I was quite happy with Alonso's race. He did a 1-stop, hard to mediums. You know, I think we did quite well to protect his tyres for most of it, and then right at the end I just had to go for it, trying to get the race win. Wasn't possible, but from, you know, what was P10 on the grid up to P2, I think that's a pretty good recovery for Alonso. Shame about Gasly. What could have been for him? Definitely could have been a race win if it wasn't for that mistake and lock-up. You know, it could have been a double podium, basically. So Ferrari do outscore us, and they do get back ahead in second place in the championship. There's no room and there's no space to kind of ponder on that too much. We go straight on then to the Belgium Grand Prix at Spa. In between these races, though, we are doing some upgrades, you know, pretty much on every area of the car, but we are now, after having Gasly lock up twice in 2 races in a row, I am trying to upgrade brake cooling as best we can, because it just seems so kind of over necessary to upgrade that area of the car. So we're trying to bring that up as high as we can in between all these rounds, you know, but we're just not showing the upgrades because, you know, obviously just trying to condense everything as much as we can. So Gasly now qualifies P4, Fernando Alonso P5, but you'll see there we had to take a penalty with Gasly, quite a hefty one, because he's going to now start in last place for this Italian Grand Prix, because we had to take an extra engine unit, because the ones he had were wearing out quite a fair bit. So Gasly, last place for this Italian GP. Alonso's up there, though, so can we have a go at the guys at the top for the race win at Monza with Alonso? And then for Gasly, it will just be a case of can we try and get back into the points from all the way at the back of the race. And being Monza, kind of like Zandvoort as well, there's not going to be too much play in the strategy, but we'll kind of see how we go on the fly. But the plan is trying to get Alonso ahead of these cars and try and control the race from there. So we go to lights out, and it's going to be a very interesting turn one, because you can see the Red Bulls are lurking over Leclerc, who's done so well to be on pole in front of the Italian fans. It's almost 3 wide through turns 2. We are just able to keep Sainz at bay with Alonso in P4, and then we're going to just try our best to get through these 3 cars if we can at max attack. Both cars on medium tyres, because I wanted Gasly to try and get his way through a few cars if he could in this first part of the race. So kind of unlike Zandvoort, going for the attack on the front foot with Gasly, despite being all the way at the back of the grid. And with Alonso, we were actually having some good pace eventually once we got our legs stretched a little bit on lap 2. And Gasly as well was making some good progress up into P17 now. Not trying to push too hard though with him, like with Alonso, because with him at the back of the grid, I had to try and go for a 1-stop with Gasly. But you can see right there with Alonso, my game plan was a 2-stop, 2 sets of mediums and 1 set of soft tyres. So for that plan to work, I had to go max attack, and I had to get ahead of these 2 cars here. Into turn 1, Leclerc blocks Verstappen quite nicely, so that's going to get me through into P2, and now we'll try and have a go at the Ferrari, setting the fast lap of the Grand Prix. So we are the quickest man on track. Very slow stuff there into turn 1 for Gasly, because there was a car that had a bit of an issue into turn 1 on the grass there. Albon it is, as he locked up. So Gasly just slowly trying to get through his way, and then we cut back on to Alonso. Dicey stuff with Leclerc side by side in the middle of sector 2, round the outside. These two will have a really nice battle at this stage, though. Whilst we're having this battle, I'm trying to save some fuel kind of cheekily as we're trying to overtake Leclerc for P1. And as we go now towards Ascari, we're in the DRS zone, still pushing flat out on this first set of medium tyres to try and get ahead, because once we get into clean air, that's where we can make use of the ERS and trying to push away from all these cars that are clearly trying to go on a 1-stop and trying to protect their tyres. And we will just get ahead of Leclerc as we go into Parabolica for lap 3. So now it's time to go for full out attack with Alonso to try and build the gap. And we do. We break the DRS 1.1. So now you can see there in the background, the Ferraris now are both attacking Verstappen. So that fighting is going to help us out to try and break away as best we can. But it's really going to be this middle stint now as Alonso comes in on lap 20. This is where we can build a gap necessary to make this 2-stop work, because the other guys, they're going to go on for so much longer in this race trying to eke out that first set of mediums. But we're just going to go full out attack on this second set of mediums. And then the soft compound, that's where I'll kind of keep it more measured. But from previous races, I've seen that, you know, when you keep it on middle neutral pushing for the soft tyres, as long as you keep them in a good range, you're going to gain that speed and you're actually going to be quite fast despite not really pushing. So this is the stint to push. Gasly comes in eventually onto hard tyres. He'll go to the end of the race. At this stage, I think we can get Gasly to about P10, P9. So I think we can recover well. At least get some points for Gasly in this race. But Alonso's flying. Fast lap of the Grand Prix in P5. We're only 10 seconds off Perez, and we've made 1 pit stop compared to them not making a pit stop yet. So I think we're actually making very good progress in terms of pace. Gasly comes out in P15, and now it's a case of trying to have a measured race for him, trying to get back into the points. But lap 36, we're now nearly about 10 seconds ahead of Sainz there. So we've built a really good gap, I think. What did throw me off there, though, is Sainz, Verstappen, Leclerc. And Perez, they've all gone to softs. So they've done a 1-stop, medium to softs. And of course, like I just said in the Zandvoort race, because the AI are just so quick still, even on neutral pushing, they can make that work. But if I tried that with Alonso on neutral, we would have definitely have just fallen away. So this was another kind of frustrating race, like with Zandvoort, just knowing that we're always on the back foot, pushing or not pushing. And as much as, I'm sure comments will say, I should have tried to not push. I'm adamant, this car's just not quick enough to match them if we're not pushing. If we had gone medium to softs like they were doing, we would have accepted P5 from the get-go. At this stage, Alonso's now down in P7, so one could argue P5 is going to be better than P7 right now because there's a massive gap to the cars ahead. But you know, I just don't, it's not in my brain just goes, no, I can't accept that. I need to try something clever, to try something. And to be fair, by the last lap of the Grand Prix, we've closed up to Norris, Hamilton, Perez. So a couple of more laps and we could have maybe got P4 here on the softs. But the unreal pace of Verstappen, Sainz and Leclerc was just too much today. So you can see we close up to these three. One or two more laps and we would have got them. Unfortunately, there's not enough laps left in this Grand Prix. So Alonso, we run out of ERS right at the end. And we actually have to end up accepting P7 because the two-stop just didn't work out for us today. Gasly does come home for a pretty solid recovery to P10. But, yeah, Monza, bit of a frustrating race for us. We are going to lose massive points to Ferrari because they get a double podium, second and third place. But to be fair, going to this race, knowing Gasly was at the back of the grid, Alonso was there, but knowing that we were never going to match them on pace on a one-stop, I kind of had to accept that Monza was going to be like this, knowing that Singapore was coming. Now, Singapore is actually a very good race for us. You know, the car characteristics really suit the street circuit. So we've lost out to Ferrari. They gained 33 points to our 7 points. So they've taken a massive leap forwards. But we now know at Singapore, we've got a good chance. We've got a good chance because in Q3, we qualify and lock out the second row, third and fourth place. Verstappen is in first, Leclerc second, but we're going to opt to go on the medium compound tyre when the rest of them will go on softs. And if we can get ahead of them, we can control the race. And being a street circuit, if we can pull that first plan off, we can definitely hold them up because it's going to be so hard for them to overtake. So here we go, the third and final race of this episode. And this one is going to turn out to be the best one of the episodes. We go to 5 red lights from this second row. We're flat out attack right now with Alonso and Gasly on the mediums when everyone else around us is on softs. And we're going to have the pace because we're pushing, obviously, the AI. They're going to push for the first lap, but then they're going to try and protect their soft tyres. Whereas we'll just keep on going and ploughing on at pushing on the mediums until we can get into P1 and 2. You can see Gasly is trying to have a go at Leclerc. Alonso's actually had the better start here, which is quite promising for him, to be fair, because so far the last few races, Gasly's been the quicker man, but good to see Alonso kind of getting reinvigorated a little bit and pushing for Verstappen to try and get into P1. And with Gasly, we will get Leclerc in Sector 3. Nice little move down the inside just under the bridge. Actually, really, really lovely overtake actually on Gasly, on Leclerc with Gasly. At this stage, Alonso is in P1. He's got Verstappen pretty easily. So we're 1-3 right now. Now we just need to get Gasly ahead of Verstappen, which we will do on lap 3. Alonso is bolted. He's already nearly 2 seconds out up the road on Verstappen, and we're going to power pass Verstappen now. It's a 1-2 for us. Now, this is where the game plan comes in. Now we can reduce the pushing to standard for both drivers, do what the AI do, because we've got 1 and 2, we can just control the race, because I just kept going, don't fight your teammate. Gasly got to P1, but now we're just both going around the circuit and controlling and dictating the pace, and we're just going on aggressive, but it's still going to be enough to carry the tyre as long as we want into the Grand Prix to then go onto the hard tyre. So at this stage, lap 29, Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, they've already pit ages ago off their softs. We're now coming in about, you know, near enough halfway through the race now, 61 laps to 29, and we're both coming in now. Gasly is going to continue on for one more lap. Alonso will come in, so second place will come in a bit earlier because Alonso, to be fair to him, did have dirty air with Gasly the entire time. So we'll come out behind the guys we are fighting, but now we're on much fresher hard tyres, and the hard tyre will be able to lean on a lot more compared to the other guys on mediums, I believe. I think they're on. So the AI, I think they can do a one-stop from soft to medium, just showing actually how quick in the game they are, even on not pushing the tyre. So that's why we're trying this different thing, medium to hard, pushing the whole time, trying to have that pace. Alonso does make a small mistake here. He spins. I say a small mistake. He makes a spin, and he goes behind Sergio Perez. So that's a little bit of a bump in the road. With Gasly, though, we're fine. We're fastest car on circuit. We're closing in, and by lap 43, 20 laps to go, still plenty of tyre. You can see on the bottom right there with Gasly, and we're going to look to overtake Leclerc and then push on. But a safety car comes out, and that's actually going to be even better for us because we can make a double pit stop under the safety car. It's because of this man, Sergio Perez, horrible lockup in the last sector. So now, all of a sudden, forget the medium to hard strategy, we're now on soft tyres in 3rd and 4th. Behind Leclerc and Verstappen, who have not come in. They're on slightly worn mediums, and we're on fresh softs. Both Gasly, Alonso, even Vettel. Look at where Vettel is in the Alpine. He's even pit onto soft tyres. So Verstappen and Leclerc, they've made a howler of a mistake here, because Gasly's going to get into P1. Alonso will get Leclerc on that 49, and will now chase after Verstappen. But even Vettel is in this great zone of he's got that free pit stop. He's on softs, so it's pretty much a formality to get past Verstappen. Lap 49. Now for 20 laps, all we do is what we did in stint 1. We're 1 and 2, control the pace, and then another safety car comes out. So at this stage, this is just game, set, and match, because it's lap 60. So we're going to finish under the safety car. Gasly P1, Alonso P2, Vettel in the Alpine is in 3rd place. So we've finally, after two painful races, we're going to get one over all the AI that we're fighting, the Ferraris, the Red Bulls. I mean, it's just one Red Bull because Perez crashed out, but the safety car's out because Leclerc's crashed. So this is fantastic stuff. So it's kind of all balancing out here, because we had a horrendous one where Ferrari got a double podium on Alonso and Gasly having low points, but now we're going to get our own back because we're going to finish this race under the safety car, a 1-2 here at Singapore. Gasly takes the win, Alonso second, Vettel, to be fair to him, brilliant story for him to get in 3rd place in the Alpine. Sainz is flying high in P4, but Leclerc 0 points, Perez 0 points, Verstappen P5, so we're going to get a whole host of points back on Ferrari after the struggles of Zandvoort and Monza. A fantastic 1-2 for the team, and it was all because we were in the right place, right time, because of that aggression we showed in the original plan. Because I'm convinced, even without that safety car that allowed us to get onto softs, I think we could have actually got a 1-2 with the hard cut tyre. And then in the end, the second safety car just guaranteed that, basically, because of finishing under it. But really great scenes to see veterans of the sport, Vettel and Alonso, sharing the podium. Ironically, Vettel in Alonso's old team at Alpine, and then Alonso for us with Audi. So the 1-2, whole host of points. So that's going to bring us back under 4 points to Ferrari. So after all the disappointment at Zandvoort and Monza, after all of that, by the end of this episode, we're only now back under 4 points to Ferrari. So it's game on again. So despite little bumps in the road and Ferrari able to get a load of points on us, the one thing we have is resilience, and knowing that when the time comes with these kind of races, these clever, aggressive strategies, we can catch the AI out and get those points back. So it's game on again by the end of this episode into the next couple of races. 4 points in it, all to play for as we go into the last portion of the season, basically, because obviously, you know, Monza was the end of the European portion, so now they're kind of all flyaways to the end of this one. So overall, yeah, bit of pain at the start of this episode, but at the end, massive euphoria to get the 1-2 and 4 points in it, all to play for. So guys, if you have enjoyed this one, hit the like button, let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys in the next one where we continue to battle with Ferrari. Till then, hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Goodbye.